Hey everyone, how's it going? Thank you for joining me today. Now that we know what it is in the box, let's get started. As I have said, the body is nicely done with sharp detail. The panel lines, however, need to be deepened. You can do this with the back of the blade in your hobby knife, or use a scribing tool like I am. This is a 2mm scribing tool from Tamiya. Remember, the point here is to deepen the lines enough to where it won't get filled with primer or paint. Don't be surprised if you have to go in the opposite direction to clean out the groove. Patience is a virtue here. Take your time and let the blade do the work. How many times do I have to do this? How deep do the grooves need to be? There is no right or wrong answer here. Depending on how heavy you paint determines how deep your panel lines need to be. Now let's move on to the hood. When removing the hood from the parts tree, don't cut next to the hood. Cut a little further away and use your knife to remove the excess, like how I am doing. Go slow so you don't remove too much material, or worst yet, cut yourself. Now we are ready to open the vents on the hood. To do this, I drilled several holes, one in each corner, and then one or two more between the corners. Then I used a new and very sharp blade in my knife to cut one hole to the other. I then used my hobby blade to help shape the hole by removing smaller pieces of material. I then use a couple of files to help smooth all my cuts in the previous steps. Doing this helps with sanding the hood, getting it ready for primer. The hood should look like this once you're done. Now we'll move on to removing molded on details. This could be something major like complete side trim, or something simple like an emblem. Whatever you want to remove, make sure you mark it with a Sharpie first. That way you can help keep track of how much you need to remove and how much you did. I'm wanting to remove the emblem on the front fender. I'm going to do this with a miniature file. If it was bigger, I would use my knife to remove most of the detail and then follow through with either sandpaper or a small file to clean up the area. Now that most of the emblem has been removed, I use a finer file to help clean up the area before sanding. Afterwards, I'll take 600 grit sandpaper and finish sanding. At that point, the only thing we can do is wait for the results from the primer. To help fill in the slots for the hood pins, I used a mix of Plastruct plastic weld. The mix consists of taking spare bits of plastic and dropping it into the bottle. The plastic weld will then melt the plastic, thickening it up to be used as a filler. It doesn't shrink from what I can tell, and it does dry hard and takes to sanding really well. I use Splash Paint's light gray primer to check my work. I find it easier to spot mistakes with light gray primer than any other colors. Now we are moving on to Splash Paint's black primer. Splash Paint's black primer covers very well. I don't hide that I really enjoy Splash Paint's products. I have airbrushed countless of products from various companies, and my two top picks are Splash Paints and Pro Scale Paints. I primed the body, hood, and chassis in black primer off camera with 3 coats. Splash Paint states that you could use either dark gray primer or black primer as a base. However, I find that using the black primer gives a more accurate look. I went ahead and painted the chassis the same color as the body to give it that full custom look. Although I painted the chassis body color, and yes, I did clear the chassis as well, I am not overly picky about the appearance. Yes, I want the chassis to look nice, but I build my cars as drivers. Orange peel doesn't bother me here. Here is where all our hard work pays off. Just look at that hood. Smoothing out the slots and opening up the vents just brings so much more realism to the project. While we wait for the paint to dry, we can make use of our time by taking care of small things, such removing the chrome from various parts. Before removing the chrome, go ahead and sand any part that needs to be cleaned up. You can use the chrome plating like how we did with the Sharpie earlier. The chrome is being removed, and the body and chassis are drying. Now I'm going to move on to the engine. I started this channel so I can share what knowledge I have to help others. However, what interests one person may not interest another. Please leave in the comments what you prefer to see. I have no problems going into great detail about steps I take to complete a model. I just don't want to bore everyone. That being said, I'm going to stop the video here and I'll catch everyone later. Next video, we'll paint the bumpers and interior. Once all that is done, we'll move on to putting everything together. Till next time, let's get to building, because we got work to do.